What is your belief?
It's somewhat based on deism. I practiced Sufism for 3 months and prayed 5 times a day. Sometimes I wouldn't leave the room to pray, to thank God, but nothing went well. Everything just got worse. The fate of people is written beforehand. Why would God write such a fate for a 3-year-old girl getting raped? And why does he write such a fate for the rapist? I blame the Creator because God should limit everyone's will if necessary, but there should not be evil of any kind. I can say that I do not respect his justice.
Willpower, good comes out. He shows us examples from the Quran and the Sunnah. Do you want to be at the same level as a rapist?
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله.
Is there a problem with publishing the video on YouTube?
No problem.
Our topic today is about beliefs. What is your belief?
It's based on deism. I mean, I accept that there is a creator. It's a vast universe. It cannot come into being by itself. I agree with that. But I also say that I do not respect his justice. I don't know, and it may just be because of jealousy. Some people are the same age as me who drive BMWs and Porsches. Now, I look at it and I question why. Why can't I do it? He does not pray, does not fast, does not give zakat, etc. I don't know. I was doing all of this at the time. While saying these things, I was also performing them at the time, even with these tattoos, thanks to a brother. I practiced Sufism for 3 months. I prayed 5 times a day, but nothing got better. Everything got worse. I thought and said, Lord Almighty, I serve you in your presence. I thank you. There were times that I was not leaving the room to pray and thank God. But for some reason, nothing got better and everything got worse. The people who didn't pray and were not thankful have always thrived when I look back. I said, is this your justice? As you know, there are also rape incidents in our country of little children. I said, my Lord, you are so great, you are powerful, and you are mighty. Why don't you help?
Can we say that step by step this led you to deism?
Yes, we can.
Okay, bro, I found you very sincere, honestly.
Thank you.
So you're speaking sincerely, and you seem to be a straightforward person. I ask, after solving these questions, if it sits well in your mind, would you consider reverting to Islam if we explain it and find a logical answer?
Of course. After finding answers to my questions, why shouldn't I revert?
Even if such events happen, like you said. Someone gets rich, and at that point, even though I am a Muslim, I can become poorer than a non-believer. And secondly, there are many crimes in the world, and you mentioned that there are people who hurt others. Now, when we look at these two issues, do you think that their existence is evidence of the falsity of Islam and the Quran?
For me, it is, because that brother of mine who I mentioned earlier told me, the more you hang on to religion, the more you thank the Almighty. Things will become easier. He said this. I went down this road believing in him. On this path, nothing got on track. Everything just got worse. After that, I started having these thoughts.
I got it. Maybe we haven't fully understood the essential meaning. Do you know why? People were sent here as a training ground. Just like when we go to a library, we don't say it is so quiet and think of it as a bad thing, right? A library is supposed to be a quiet place. That is the purpose of a library. Or when we go to a gym, people get tired of exercising. When we see people shedding blood and sweat on the floor, we wouldn't say this is an evil place. On the contrary, we would say that the event is logical since this is the purpose of opening the place. People are increasing their power here by training and they're developing. Likewise, what is the opening of this world like in this context? It is to increase the level of education of people. People have been sent here for spiritual education and development.
Like an exam.
When we look at the basis of the exam, we can think of it like this. Just as physical development is produced in the gym, the difficulties and the problems endured are the signs of development. So the troubles of this world are the proof of the spiritual development of people. In other words, it is the indicator. Then, when we look at it from this angle, like we said, the cinema being silent is a sign it is good. In this context, the problems experienced in the world, especially when more trouble is experienced by those who know Islam and are Muslim, is an indicator of spiritual development. The purpose of the place is to know God, and with patience and trials, advancing your spiritual development. It's normal for these to happen. See how you said basically, even after I thoroughly increased my worship, I had the opposite decline? Now, but as we said, difficulties must be faced here for learning to occur.
So it's not only the material things that I'm concerned about, but also the example. It's a bad situation, but I'll give an example about a 3-year-old girl. For example, as you know, some cowardly people in our country expose children to specific events. We say God is great. Why doesn't the great God see this and help those children? What sin can a little 3-year-old girl have for her to be tested and encounter such hardship?
I would like to ask you a sincere question on this subject. In this case, do you think it is the person responsible and guilty, or is it the Creator, Allah?
I think it's the Creator, because the fate of a person is predestined.
Destiny is different. We'll come to that too. The writing of destiny does not disable the will. We'll come to that.
So why does God write such a destiny to the 3-year-old girl and such a destiny to the rapist?
I got it. You may hold this view because the matter of destiny is not established. Let's make it clear. Essentially, when we look at events, yes, we can see cruelties. We can see people commit crimes. We can see them hurting each other. But when we analyze it, we can see that the wrongdoer is human, because humans have willpower. For example, you wore a blue sweater today. Did you choose it or did someone force you?
I chose it.
So it is will. This is proof of partial will. Like, I chose to wear this today as well. At this point, we all know the existence of a partial will. When we look at this event, people commit crimes of their own will. We already know that those people are responsible for their choices. Let's look at an example. We see that people commit crimes and we blame the Quran. Let's say a doctor deliberately stabs people to death when he enters the operating room. Do we blame medical books?
No, we would blame the doctor.
Why do we blame the doctor? It has nothing to do with the book. In reality, the man hasn't obeyed the book, right? Likewise, if a person harms another person and commits crimes such as rape, abuse, or murder, we can already see that this person does not obey the Quran, like that doctor example. Just as we did not blame the medical book, here too we should not blame the Quran and Islam. Man is responsible.
I don't actually blame the Quran or Islam. I blame the Creator. As I said, you are so great and so powerful. We read from books that God helped and guided previous prophets and people in the past. He showed them the right way. Why doesn't he show people today?
In fact, he also guides people. He gives us the solution. He shows us examples from the Quran and the Sunnah. We can see the resolution, but as I said, people using their will choose not to listen, like that doctor. Many doctors will do the right thing and apply the medical book, but some people won't because people have willpower. Let's talk about why God doesn't intervene here. If we handle this topic with wisdom, we will see the point. For example, if we say someone is stabbing someone or shooting with a gun to kill, when someone is going to harm another person and God always prevents them, will we then be able to distinguish between the guilty and the good? If the will is hindered and no one can do evil, will there be any difference between you and a rapist? Then there's no distinction between good and evil. Would you like to be on the same level as a rapist?
No, I would not. But all I want is that God limits everyone's will if necessary, and let there be no evil, only good. Let no one do evil, and no one should go to hell.
When we look at it from this perspective and people are restricted, there will be no distinction between a well-meaning person and a malicious person. Let's say a human has polluted his soul. What will be the point of distinguishing the two? It is when willpower comes into effect. Yes, God can intervene, but in general, all intervention and the prevention of crimes would interfere with the will. What will happen then? People will say, I don't have a will, I'm not guilty. Then what would it be like? This will invalidate the purpose of having a trial. A good-spirited person and a bad-spirited person will have the same rank. You said you didn't want to be ranked at the same level as a rapist. What is it that distinguishes you and gives you a different rank? What distinguishes someone with a good heart from someone with an evil heart? It is the existence of a will. In other words, with willpower, good comes out and evil is exposed. We look at it with compassion. It upsets me too, so I'm trying to do what I can, but it is impossible for the one who gives compassion to have none. But when we look at it from a more extensive scope, yes, people can be persecuted. Let's think like this. For example, think of a very bad dream. Sometimes it even takes a long time, right? Let's say you had a dream that you thought lasted 80 years, and it's terrible. As soon as you wake up from that dream, don't you just forget everything with a cup of water?
We call it a dream and forget.
With a glass of water, if God can make us forget the pain we suffered in a dream that we thought was 80 years long, how can he not make us forget the troubles in this world in return for eternal paradise? We are talking about eternal paradise.
We say that God loves all of his servants equally, right? So why does he want people to have an evil soul? If he wanted, then he wouldn't make anyone evil.
God wants good, but people have been giving a blessing called a partial will to demonstrate their ability. People direct this partial will the way they choose. For example, the existence of fire is pleasant, isn't it?
So it meets our needs. It's good.
It has many benefits. However, if someone with their willpower reaches to the fire and knowingly burns their hand, can we say the existence of fire is bad?
We cannot say that it would be very unreasonable.
We can't. This would be the person's fault. Likewise, the existence of willpower, a partial will, is a great blessing. Those who do good and those who do evil are distinguished, and it is the existence of that will that brings people to the level of humanity and gives them value. But just like a person putting their hand in a fire or stabbing someone, if he abuses that willpower by killing or harming someone, can we then say the creation of a partial will is evil and immoral? Why does God want to do this? Just like the fire example, we can't say this, right? When we look at it in this context, then we will say, yes, the creation of it is good, and there are great benefits, but there can be corrupt people. But as we said, there is an afterlife. Eternal happiness in heaven awaits good people, and those people you mentioned which we get so angry with, they will be punished with justice. That is like a sultan's execution of justice with heaven and hell. Shall I tell you about fate? Let me put it this way. Destiny is God's knowing. We sometimes confuse knowing with intervention, just as the sun has different colors. For example, let's say one is yellow and one is red. These are two different features. Similarly, Allah has the name Al-Alim, the knowing name of Allah. We can consider the fate with His name. His other name is Al-Qadir. We can think of actions such as creating. God knows, but is He interfering with us? We confuse the two different concepts. It's like two different colors of the sun. God's name Al-Alim is different, and the name Al-Qadir is different. We will then say the fact that God knows something does not mean that He intervenes and forces us. These have different characteristics. Then we say, how is it our fault if it is already written in our destiny? That's actually not the case. God has written it because He knew that we would do this. Let's finish with a small example. Let's say two cars are coming from opposite sides. We do a mathematical calculation, we calculate it, and you say they will collide in 8 seconds. You wrote it down on a piece of paper and there was a collision. It was obvious. Because you wrote it on this paper, can people come to you and say, we collided because you wrote it on paper? You are the guilty one?
They can't, because it was already apparent that it would happen.
Precisely. You already identified it with your knowledge and you wrote it accordingly. Your writing depended on your knowledge. Knowledge is dependent on the thing known. Likewise, God's writing of our destiny is dependent on the events that take place. We do not do it because God knows. God knows what we will do, and He writes accordingly, just like in the previous example. Meaning we should consider the matter of destiny in this way. So, if someone commits a crime, the responsibility is on that person. Is all of this clear?
Very clear. I got it. It's really clear now. As I said, I have always had faith in God. Such a large universe cannot come into being on its own. It cannot occur in any way. These were the questions that confused me.
What do you say? Shall we make a return today?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Do you remember the Shahada?
Sure.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله